You are already familiar with the incredible and engaging programming podcasts offer you. But did you know that companies are beginning to tap into the power of podcasting inside their organizations? Through a next-generation communication platform, Aimcast is already turning teams into communities. Leading Fortune 500 companies are already using Aimcast to better deliver sales training, corporate values and culture, virtual courses, customer engagement, human resources, messages from leadership, sharing insights and best practices, and even develop their own corporate podcasting programming. Head on over to aimcast.com and request a demo to experience what top global companies are already experiencing through the Aimcast platform. That's Aimcast, AIMECAST.com. Get your organization to connect and engage with Aimcast.
So here's how it works. You take the blue pill, the story ends, you wake up in your bed, and you believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you listen to Thrive Loud, and Lou shows you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
A third of the people love you, a third don't care about you, and a third hate you. So you concentrate on the third that love you and you go for it.
I think the greatest Achilles heel for leaders is they don't give themselves time to think.
So my journey is one of those, there are a lot of detours. There's a lot of going off on the side roads.
Thrive Out listeners, you're in for a treat. We're here with Jamal Mashburn,
Jesse Itzler,
the John Maxwell,
Jackie the Joke Man Martling, New York Rangers great Mike Richter,
Lisa Lampanelli,
Mary Carrillo.
Oh, how nice.
I'm actually going through the practice of being an entrepreneur.
Pick yourself up, brush yourself off, and thrive loud.
Get ready to thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
I love it.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, connecting you to the most inspiring and amazing people that are thriving each and every day. I'm your host, Lou Diamond. Today on Thrive Loud, I am especially excited because we have author, entrepreneur, CEO, and speaker. She believes that business leaders have a responsibility not just to make their organizations better, but to contribute to the world in a positive way. She has had numerous publications and is recognized globally as a thought leader in executive coaching, leadership development, and resilience at work. She founded one of the first executive coaching firms in Silicon Valley, and as the founder and CEO of Sloan Group International, she has grown a small firm based in New York City to a global enterprise with 400 plus practitioners in 23 countries. Thrive Loud listeners, someone near and dear to me, as you will soon learn in this episode, as she embodies everything that Thriving Loud is all about. Please welcome Karlin Sloan. Karlin, how are you today?
Thank you so much. I can't believe your intro. It's just so fun to be here, and I'm thrilled to do so.
So Thrive Loud listeners, we won't put the date of how long it's been since I've physically seen Karlin in person. But many years ago, in many careers ago, I had the incredible opportunity to connect with this person at a very instrumental part of my life, and recognized what it was like to work with a rock star and to get someone that could make me be a rock star. And I think ever since then, it has been something that has stuck with me, because she is probably one of the most inspirational coaches I've ever come across in my life. So first of all, Karlin Sloan.
The world. So nice.
So Karlin when you guys check out all the artwork and links to this particular episode, which we will provide, Karlin, to our listeners in full, you will get all the things that she is about and all the incredible accomplishments. And obviously that bio alone was, enough to just, make you go, ooh, ah, or get all, whatever the word is, verklempt. I forget what the word is for the right analogy. But Karlin, I want you to tell a little bit of what you've been up to. Why don't we just start off by where you are right now? And that'll be our kickstart to get things going. Karlin, where are you?
All right, great. Well, it's morning here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia, where I live with my little family. And I've been here for the last 4+ years. And it's a wild ride being outside of the US while all this explosion is happening with everything changing in the whole world. So, so here we are. It's very surreal. And, I'm an American abroad, and I'm still very American. I realize it every day.
Now, obviously, all the things going abroad, obviously, we've got COVID, which is pretty much shut down where you are right now. And obviously, depending on where you are, unbelievably, New York is much more on the mend than where you are. We've somehow flattened the curve and moved on over here. Although we've got some people in other states that have had some issues. That's for another podcast. But what I also recognize is, look, I, like many people and like yourself for a long time, a lot of people are now working virtually. A lot of people are trying to connect and keep their game on top of their game. They're doing the best that they can in their workplace, trying to thrive where they can. And I can tell you this, and something that I've been very busy on, a lot of people need a lot of help talking to some amazing coaches like yourself. Have you seen that globally, my good friend?
Oh, yeah. Well, let me tell you, it's such an amazing time to do the kind of work that we do in leadership development, because, what's more important right now than great leadership? When there's a crisis, it becomes something that's really critical, is that, we look to people to help us and lead us and cultivate a culture that's sort of optimistic and positive in the face of huge challenges. So I would say, yes, indeed, it's an amazing time to do this work. It's a scary time to do this work. And it's also incredibly gratifying, because I've been working on topics like resilience and crisis leadership for a really long time now. And I feel like, it's an interesting moment to put my skills to use.
Well, let's actually talk about that. I'm going to tap it from your client side first. And that is, what specific problem, for lack of a better word, are you seeing leaders face more so right now than ever before?
It's a great question. And I think what I'm seeing is a combination of two things. And one is that the pace of change is so rapid currently that people's brains are basically on the fritz. So we, as humans, we're just not hardwired to cope with this amount of being on and this amount of adaptation this fast. So every day there's new news. Every day there's, we know something new from the scientific community. We're listening to 3 different people give us leadership in 3 different directions. We don't know what the truth is. And there's a tendency in organizations to be extremely reactive to every piece of new information that comes out, or to get paralyzed and shut down and just keep doing the same old. So you're looking at these adaptive responses, both of which are like at each end of the continuum. You're either paralyzed or you're changing way too much. There's got to be a middle ground. And there's an old leadership book, I think it was in the late 80s, early 90s, Good to Great and Built to Last were two of these. And they talked a lot about preserving the core and stimulating progress at the same time, being a trait of companies that move from being just good to being great. And I'm seeing it everywhere right now. It's fascinating. The greatest leaders are the ones who are able to preserve something really positive about the core of their businesses, but stimulate progress in a new direction, because things are changing very rapidly.
I'll say this from some of the companies that I've been working with, and I'm dealing with them more from the business development, marketing, and connecting point of view, and how they can be doing it better. So obviously a lot of challenges for sales forces who never were working remotely, who now have to do so. But as it relates to great companies doing great things with culture, I will tell you that as people moved to a fully virtual, staying at home, working at home environment, there were a lot of challenges in getting people to find the right flow into the day. Were you seeing a lot of that from a lot of your clients? Like you said, like they're constantly being on all the time. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's the other thing that I'm seeing, is that it's a very bumpy transition for a lot of big corporations in particular to go to almost all virtual. And as somebody who's worked for 10 years in a virtual working environment, this is something we've been through as a company in many iterations of trying to figure out how do we build culture when we're all separated by time and space and we're all in our own little spot. And I think it becomes much more important to over communicate when you're virtual, and to also ground in things that are your commonalities, like your common values or your common purpose. And I think bringing it back to the big picture is what I'm working with a lot of people on right now. Sort of how do you go back to who are we and who do we want to be and what do we stand for? And those values are very, very grounding for people right now. So I'm seeing a lot of people either spinning out or really trying to get back to a sense of purpose and meaning.
Karlin, this one I'm going to be interested in hearing your answer, because as it relates, as you said, to Sloan Group International, and you have been working remotely, I've heard this from lots of folks that are coaching. I even have family members who have been in this. And because of the increased workload that's actually taking place, there are some coaches who are doing 7 to 8 hours a day on Zoom, and they're getting fried.
It's exhausting.
Yeah. How is SGI dealing with that?
It's a really good question. And I think, we're really adapting and learning as we go, like everyone else is, because of the high demand for video conference. And it used to be that we did a lot more audio stuff than we're doing now. And that, we might have coaches working half their time online and half the time in person. And now that we're shifting to so much video, we're really having to tell people, we've got to pace ourselves, shut the video down for periods of time, share something on your screen for periods of time that, unifies people that they can look at, but that's not faces, because that idea of Zoom fatigue, that's a real thing. We can't process that delay. It's too hard to do. It's very exhausting. So I'm talking to a lot of people right now who are in the same boat, but yeah, I'd say we're learning as we go. We've developed a technology platform that we deliver some of our work through that pushes little bite-sized pieces of content out to people. And then we can do integration online where we do live work. And that is working really well because I think it's very hard for people to do deep dive learning right now. It's a lot easier for people to do things in little baby chunks and then talk it through.
I'm excited because I finally get to forward you a piece of content, because I wrote a piece in LinkedIn called "Zoom Fatigue is Real." And, and it was really important to get people to minimize the amount of screen content and recognize whether or not you need to see one another. I know it sounds really funny, that phone, they call it a smartphone for a reason, because it's pretty smart that you can actually just listen. And as we know, as great leaders and coaches, it's important to listen and not just always be distracted and let your eyes glaze over. So I'm sure that's a really cool tactic you're dealing with.
Absolutely. And it's something that's forcing the issue for a lot of people is how do they do what's called ostentatious listening? That's a term that comes out of a study that was done at Google a few years ago in team productivity. And the idea of ostentatious listening is demonstrating really clearly that you're listening. And it's hard to do that when you're sitting on Zoom, because people can't see the micro expressions on your face. You have to really do it through paraphrasing and showing people that you're hearing what they're saying. But really stuff.
I'm laughing because right before we spoke, I just had a kickoff session with a new client, and it was all online and all on screen. And then he had a power outage. And I said,
no.
Wait, but it was fine. It was fine because I said, perfect. Let's just go to phone. And while we did it, he actually then sent me a message. He goes, that was really helpful because I was really starting to get tired. And, I was literally looking at the screen and I totally get it. What he was really saying is the nice way is, listen, I'd rather listen to you than have to look at your face, which I totally understand.
It's all good. It's all good. I think it's the magic thing is a mix, right? The magic thing is a mix where you feel like you can connect to people face to face, but then you can shut it down, and it doesn't have to be this obligation to constantly be on the screen. And honestly, 80% of the people who are on the screen are looking at their own picture. which is very distracting, and it's really hard to listen to somebody when you notice that they're sort of primping in front of the camera.
So true. So I've got a good question for you. You're leading a global business with all these different offices, and you've been doing it for a while.
Yeah.
Favorite thing about it? Least favorite thing about it?
Oh, favorite thing about it is the people. I get to work with amazing people, and that part of it cannot be beat. I love the challenge of working in different cultures, and just seeing that really, like, underneath it all, we're all the same, and we have these amazing differences in how we do the things we do, and it just sort of pushes you to learn and grow all the time. And I kind of like that challenge of having to adapt. And I'll also say, like, before living in Australia, I was living in Indonesia, and Indonesia is a totally other world. It was like going to Mars from America. It was like living in Bali for a couple of years. It was an incredible life experience, great for my family, but culturally, like, what an adaptation. But it turns out, like, I adapted so much better to Indonesia than I have to Australia in certain ways. And, you have these ideas about culture that, if it's a Western culture, I'm going to be familiar with it, and they all speak English, and it's going to be so easy. No way. It's just been an amazing learning experience. So I would say that's the positive part, the part I love the best. And the part that's the most difficult is honestly, it's the virtual part.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that I've had to get a lot better at, as like a digital nomad, so to speak. But I will say, like, the virtual part, I really love seeing people live. I do miss the excitement of an in-person conference or a meeting, and so it just takes a whole different level of commitment to really get to know people when you can't meet them in person.
I hope we get there soon enough with everything that's going on that.
Yeah, me too.
I love asking guests this question, and I'm having some kind of like proud coaching moment in my brain asking you this question. And we all have great days. Obviously, you've had this firm, and you've been, whatever part of the world, you've been thriving for the most part as much as you possibly can. But we all have days when we're not kicking on all cylinders. Karlin, when you have trouble thriving, who or what practice do you seek to get back on the thriving track?
I tap into my joyful child. My daughter is the happiest person I have ever met. She's 11, and she's a bundle of joy. So when I feel crummy, I am the luckiest mom in the world, because I just hang out with my daughter for a few minutes, and everything's good again, because man, she cannot be beat for joy. So I feel really lucky with that.
So I'm going to lead into the plug section in the admin part. You have yet another book coming out. Can you share with the listeners what this one's about and what's going on? Unbelievable. Yes.
Yeah. So this one is called Inspiring Leadership for Uncertain Times. And it was a real labor of love. I actually, it was necessary. Yeah. So I felt like, with certain things in my career, I have been a little too ahead of the curve. And I wrote a book maybe 10 years ago now that was called Unfear. And it was about how do you deal with change in times of uncertainty. But I don't think people were really needing it at the time. And so I went back and I took that book and I rewrote it, and interviewed people about what they're doing about COVID, and really looked at what's happening in organizations right now, and tried to integrate a lot of case studies and looking at leadership in this moment. And it was a really great process. And the book's available now on Amazon, and it'll be on Audible soon. But I'm excited because I really feel like it's practical, And what I really hope that we can be at this time is really useful because I think people don't need abstract and theoretical. They really need just concrete tools that they can take and apply in their own leadership situations. And it's things like, how do you turn people's complaints into something positive? And there are just simple exercises to apply, and I can even give you one if you would like.
Yeah, why don't we? Give us one. We love it. Our listeners would love it.
I'll suck it to you. So if you are dealing with a lot of complaining, which does happen when people are going through massive amounts of change, they tend to feel disempowered. And so what you can do with a team that is starting to complain is just, you can do it right now. You can take a piece of paper and draw 3 columns. And on the top,
I'm drawing as we speak. Go.
Draw it as I talk. So the first column is your complaint. The second column is your request. And the third column is your action column. And so under complaints, you can just spew out as many complaints as you want and find a really good nugget of complaining. And then think about, what's the request embedded in that complaint? So if your complaint is, we don't have enough resources, I'm working too much, I can't handle this pace of all this change, then what's the request underneath that? Well, maybe it's get more resources. Maybe it's have somebody you can delegate to. Maybe it's a thinking partner that you can talk to. There are a lot of things you can request. Now, if the answer is no to all of them, you have an action to take. But if the answer is yes, you also have another action to take. So what this does is it leads people through a process where they move from, that sort of paralysis, feeling like they have no power, to looking at, oh, I do have power in this situation. I have power to adapt to what's around me, or I have power to change it. And I think that using really simple tools like that, cognitive tools, really simple stuff, back to basics is where we all need to be right now. And that stuff can be really helpful.
Yeah. I like it. It's moving through fear into courage in a very tactical, action-oriented way. I like how you're thinking here. Come on, we're getting
thanks, Lou.
Thriving. I like it.
That's what we really want. And and why do we do what we do? In leadership development, a lot of the people that I work with do this work because we care about human beings, and we want to see them do their best work and influence the most people in the best possible way. And I think that's what you're doing with your podcast. I'm just so excited about it, and just, really happy to see like this little arc of life that we've been on. I will not say how many years it's been, but we were like babies in the internet days.
we'll hit upon that in a little bit here. So let's do this. Do the plug section here, Karlin. Share with the listeners all the places people can find you, websites, social media, all that stuff. We will put it all in the show notes. However, it's always better when they hear it directly from you.
Excellent. So I'm at sloangroupinternational.com. And you can also find me at karlinsloan.com, and you spell my name KarlinSloan. And in Australia, you can find me at aceevolve.com. So that's our Australia branch. So you can also find the book on Amazon and Audible.
Perfect. Permission to go down Fun Street with me.
All right. I can do it.
You can do it. We've always had fun. And then listeners can tell, even though we haven't spoken in a very, very long time, it's like it was yesterday. So it doesn't make a difference. Great. Okay. First, share with the listeners your all-time favorite movie.
Oh, my favorite movie. Well, I love this obscure movie called Wings of Desire from the 80s.
And why does that movie connect so much with you? Yeah.
I think it's about being a human, and it's a really beautiful sort of meditation on life and death, and I don't know, it's intense. What can I say?
We will put a link so listeners can go check it out. How about that? I don't know if they will. All right. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to go down really fun street. We're going to hop along to all the different places. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you a quick little question, and you're going to say the first thing that comes to your mind when I suggest it. It's kind of like the speed round in Family Feud, but I haven't surveyed 100 people, just you, Karlin.
Okay, speed round on Family Feud, or like I'm on lying on a couch being analyzed. One of the two.
Exactly, one of the two. It really not much of a difference, except for maybe the host, but that's not important right now.
All right.
Okay, a song that pumps you up and gets you excited.
Oh, there's a song I'm listening to all the time. It's called "The Ray" by Ray Charles.
Okay, I like it. A favorite food that's not a dessert.
I really like crab.
Okay. A favorite dessert.
A favorite dessert. I really love apple pie.
All right. Activity you wish you did more of.
Leaving the town that I live in right now.
That's great. An activity you wish you did less of.
I would say Zoom is my less at this moment.
If you can snap your fingers and go anywhere in the world right now, where are you?
Oh, it'd be great to be in New York right now. It'd be great to be sitting across from you right now. What could I say?
It would be fun. And now I'm going to ask this last question. So the listeners need to know this. We can go back, let's just say at the dawn of the internet age, we won't go to the exact year, but let's just say it's now over 20 years, which is so sad.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
You're familiar with the musical, or if you haven't seen it on Disney, you've heard of Hamilton the musical, obviously.
Yes.
Right. And one of my favorite numbers in that thing is when the Aaron Burr character, performed by Leslie Odom Jr., sings the song, "Was in the room where it happens," right? Where obviously that's where Hamilton and Thomas Jefferson and James Madison made a very famous deal a long time ago. But I always joke about the fact that I know a group of people that were in the room where it happens, located somewhere in Manhattan at the dawn of the internet, and it was one of the most interesting experiences. And this was in one of your very first coaching workshops. Do you not remember?
Oh, you're kidding. You're kidding me.
Well, I mean,
I'm excited. Now, what could that be?
I don't know. But if you think about it, from that moment, how many people connected from that, and where all those people started and all the careers that have launched from that. I mean, in many different industries and businesses. It's an incredible list of like who's who, and it's pretty unbelievable. And I always I always say this, as memorable as my experience was working there, it was the experience working with you in that group that will always stand out to me as a game changer in things that I look forward to. So I always have to thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. It was a really wild, amazing experience to be there at that time. And I still definitely talk to a lot of people who I worked with, in the early days, and from the garage to the big exploded like culture and society changing companies. And it's amazing. I mean, and you think about all the people who are starting their careers right now, and you just wonder, what are they going to be looking at in 20 years? It's really amazing.
I'm sure, aside from the headache that we're all going through right now, this virus, but I'm sure that, there will be new great things that will come from it, because there always is. There's always
you bet.
Karlin Sloan. I'm like going, so amazed. Have you here? Excited for your new book. Great for all the things that are going on. Continued success to you. Thank you so much, though, for coming on Thrive Loud.
All right. Thanks, Lou.
And to all our listeners out there, thank you for joining us. And until next time, keep thriving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
Let's go.
No. What else was in the room where it happened? The room where it happened. The room where it happened. No one else was in the room where it happened. The room where it happened. The room where it happened. My God, in God we trust, but we never really know what got discussed. Click, boom, and it happened. And no one else is in the room where it happened. Alexander Hamilton. What did they say to you?
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Check us out on the web at thriveloud.com and follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook at Thrive Loud. And check us out on the Good Pods app at Thrive Loud, where you can follow, listen, and connect directly to Lou and all of the Thrive Loud episodes. Thanks for listening.